Okay, so every January, millions of us do the exact same thing. We make a promise to ourselves, right? This year, we're going to be better, stronger, healthier. But let's be real, by February, most of those promises are a distant memory. So why is it so incredibly hard to stick with our goals? Well, it's not a moral failing. It's actually a design problem. And it turns out there's a science to fixing it. Today, we're going to unpack that science and figure out how to build resolutions that actually last.
Here's our game plan for today. First, we'll talk about the whole resolution ritual itself. Then, we'll dive into why so many of our best intentions just fall flat. After that, we're going to shift to a much better approach, using strategy over sheer willpower. We'll break down a simple 3-step method for building habits that stick, and then we'll finish up with a toolkit to really make this your year.
All right, let's start with a ritual. This isn't some modern fad. The whole idea of making promises for the new year goes back thousands of years to the ancient Babylonians. It's this powerful moment for a fresh start. But history also shows that our follow-through, well, it hasn't always been great. And this really gets to the heart of the problem. Multiple studies have found that over 90% of all New Year's resolutions fail. Just let that sink in for a second. 90%. That is a staggering failure rate, and it just goes to show you there's this massive gap between what we want to do and what we actually end up doing.
And that commitment fades surprisingly fast. A Forbes health poll shows that almost half of the people who give up do it within the first 3 months. By the time the next new year rolls around, only a tiny handful are still on track. So this isn't just about a few people losing motivation. It's a predictable, widespread pattern.
So the million-dollar question is why? Why do so many good intentions just fizzle out? It's so easy to just blame a lack of willpower, but the research points to something much more specific. We're often falling into these predictable psychological traps, basically setting ourselves up to fail right from the very start.
And here it is, the #1 culprit. Resolutions like be healthier or get in shape. They sound great, but they're actually terrible goals. They don't have the specific, measurable targets our brains need to make a plan. It's like trying to navigate without a map. You know the general direction you want to go, but you have no earthly idea which road to take to get there.
But vague goals are just one piece of the puzzle. We also fail when our environment is working against us. Like trying to eat healthy when your pantry is just stocked with junk food. Or we set goals based on what we think we should do, not what we genuinely, deep down, want to do. And so often we give up because our big goals don't give us those small, immediate rewards our brains crave to stay motivated.
This quote from clinical psychologist Terry Bly really nails it. For change to stick, it can't just be a casual wish. The motivation has to be powerful. You have to get to a point where staying the same actually feels more painful than the effort it's going to take to change.
So, if willpower isn't the answer, what is? Well, this brings us to a much more hopeful part of our explainer, shifting our focus from pure grit to having a good game plan. It's all about working smarter, not just trying harder.
This is such an empowering idea. If you failed at a resolution before, it doesn't mean you're lazy or weak-willed. It just means you had the wrong strategy. And the beautiful thing about strategy is that it's a skill. It's something you can learn, you can improve, and you can apply with the right tools.
Let's just look at what this shift actually looks like in practice. I want to run more. That's a vague wish. But I will run for 30 minutes each day. Now that's a strategic goal. It's a clear, actionable instruction, it's specific, it's measurable, and at the end of the day, you know without a doubt whether you did it or not.
The framework for creating these strategic goals is called SMART. It's basically a simple checklist to make sure your goal is really well defined. Is it specific? Is it measurable? Is it actually achievable? Or are you just setting yourself up for failure? Is it relevant to what you really want? And does it have a time-bound deadline? This is what turns a flimsy resolution into a solid plan.
Okay, so we have a well-designed SMART goal. Now what? How do we actually make it happen day after day? This is where we get into the nuts and bolts of habit formation, using a simple 3-step process that's totally backed by behavioral science.
This is what's known as the habit loop. First, you need a cue. That's the trigger that tells your brain it's time to do the thing. It could be a time of day, a place, or even an emotion. Next is the routine. That's the action itself. And finally, the reward. That's the positive feeling that tells your brain, hey, that was good, let's do it again.
Now the real secret here, the absolute game changer, is making the routine part of this loop incredibly easy to start. Your goal isn't run for 30 minutes. No,
Your goal is simply put on your running shoes. That's it. That's the win. Because once your shoes are on, you are infinitely more likely to actually head out the door.
At the end of the day, a great strategy is only half the equation. The other half is your mindset, which this quote from Henry Ford just captures perfectly. Believing your system will work is just as important as the system itself. If you build a solid plan and you truly believe you can stick to it, you're already halfway there. So let's put all these pieces together. This last part is all about taking these principles and building a personalized system to make this year different, to make change that lasts completely on your own terms.
So, here's your toolkit. First, make a real decision and commit. Get crystal clear on your deep personal why. Break down your big ambitions into ridiculously small actions. Track what you're doing, because what gets measured gets managed. And finally, celebrate the small wins. This is what builds momentum and makes the process something you actually enjoy. And that brings us to the end. So, we'll leave you with this final thought. Forget about some huge, sweeping resolution for the new year. Based on everything we've just talked about, what is one small, strategic goal you can commit to today? Because that tiny first step is where real, lasting change always begins.